All right, so today we're going to be doing a little bit of work on an Articat 700, and the problem that we're having is the four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive actuator. And I did a little bit of research on it, did some discovery, figured I'd pass it along because it's pretty expensive to replace it even used. So here's what I found. All right, so inside the wheel well, or just behind the left-hand side wheel front, you have the actuator that's attached to the front differential. This piece right here. It engages the four-wheel drive or the front axles to drive. There's a sleeve that gets pushed forward in this section of the differential that then takes the power that's spinning off of this front drive shaft and then converts it into drive for the front axles being right here and then across on the other side. So we're going to take this one out. It's pretty simple, it's straightforward. It's got a 4-pin plug here. And then there's, I've already removed it, but there is a screw here. There's one down here underneath. And then in behind here, there's a screw that you need to take out that's actually in that way. And then it's just sliding it backwards. And it slides off of this pin, which goes inside this sleeve. This is where the piston controls, which slides the sleeve for actuating the four-wheel drive. So then we're going to take this over to the bench and we'll take a look inside. All right, so we've taken it off the bench, or off the ATV. Again, that's an Articat 700 automatic, non-diesel. It's a gas engine, EFI. These are the type of screws that come out of the surround. There's nothing really special to it. Just pull those screws out. This is what we're looking like inside. Okay, so we have the motor, which does a gear drive across. And what it actually does is it moves a tab back and forth on here, and these are your limit switches. So we're going to open this up a little bit further, and we'll take a look and see what's going on inside here. So first off, we're going to pull off this gear. Take a little closer look at it. When the motor spins, it actuates this gear, which pushes this tab back and forth, which then connects with limit switches. So this is just a secondary gear. This is our control board and the motor. The motor just slips off the pins and walk it back and forth. They're sized, so you can only put them in one way. You can't put them in backwards. But when we look at this one, and I'll show you that I've taken it apart already, but closer inspection here shows that this is a limit switch here. And I removed this limit switch earlier so that I could replace it. What had happened is this switch actually actuates. Just a slight click there. And what happened was the back side of this hinge broke. So when the arm would swing back, it would limit switch on this side, but then when it came back here, it would not actuate the actual switch, because you can see the switch is actually in here. It's not at the end over there. So I'll give you a closer look here at the limit switch. All right, so this here is the switch itself. The switch doesn't have any prints on it to tell you where it's from or what company to look for, unless you're really good at what you know what you're looking for. This is actually a date stamp. It tells when it was made, but it doesn't tell where it was made. But it's just a 3-pin. And then, like I said before, this is the switch portion of it. And it would connect on the other end when the limit switch arm would come and contact it. And this hinge, or it's supposed to hinge in there, and it ended up breaking. So it would then contact the end and bottom out, but not actually connect the switch. So I ended up going online and finding a electronics company that provides these switches. They are Omron Switch, and Mauser is the company that supplies them. So I'll put in the notes, I'll put the switch part numbers as well as the websites that you can go to get these switches. But these switches themselves, like one here and one that's going to go in there, as you can see, this switch here, actually I desoldered it. It was in this position like that. And they actually have a shadow on the board. You can see the shadow. This is where the arm should be pointing out, just like that one is. And then it solders in on those 3 points. This switch right here, $5.40. Whatever. By the time I got one, I'm going to replace both of them. I'm going to replace this one and this one. Just because if this one, the first one has already failed, then the second one may be on the way out, and I'd rather have two brand new ones in at $5.40 a piece. Not a big cost. Cost me ended up, I think, $30.40 Canadian by the time I got it up here, shipped, and to my doorstep. But even then, $40, $30 round trip to get it to my door versus what is it? I think it's $300 or $400 for a used unit, all of this in one piece, or $600 brand new. I'm gonna go with the $30 option, please. So yeah, I'm gonna start to reassemble this. It's gonna be soldering it a bit, so we're gonna reposition the camera and come back to you. All right, so I've gone through and picked out the differences. So in this case, I just left this one in the bag so I can tell the difference right now. When you order them, these parts, one's gonna be left hand and one's gonna be right hand. So you end up being able to put them in, sorry, they'll be in like this. If you get two of the identical ones, they'll end up having the hinge the wrong way because they actually have the connectors come out of the bottom a certain direction, okay? So we're gonna set that one aside, and this is gonna be the one that I originally took out, but before I start soldering it back in, I need to get solder on these connector points so that it's easier to go into the circuit board. So I've got my soldering pen already warmed up. It's got nice handy lights on it. It's just a Wheeler, probably 125 watt. I usually clean the soldering tip by dipping it in the soldering paste, and then I just have electrical solder here that I'll load up the soldering iron with. And then all I want to do is just touch on each one of these contacts, making sure that I get a little bit, actually we're going to want to get a little bit of soldering paste on each one of these tips as well. And this soldering paste is just, it allows the solder to spread. It cleans it as it gets put on. So got a little bit on there. Sorry, I'm going to load up this again. And then just one at a time. Okay, now they turn a little bit of color because there's leftover on my soldering iron. And then you want to let it cool a little bit. The circuit I can feel is warm just from touching the contacts. So I'm going to take a break, let it cool off, and then we're going to put it on the circuit board. All right, so we've had a little bit of time for it to cool down. I know it's in and out of the video and it's not real time, but the intention is to make sure that this works and not necessarily show off that I can do it fast. So this has been soldered on each one of those tips. It's going to match into there on those sockets on the circuit board. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hold it in place, and then while I heat up this side of the board, I'll be able to feel the circuit actually falling into place on the other side. So hopefully I can get this lined up pretty good. And together it goes. Now the circuit's in place, a little bit crooked, so I'm gonna do that again and then straighten it out a bit because I want it to be able to touch properly when the arm comes back and forth to connect these two circuits. So I'm going to straighten it out. I'm going to take this one out and then replace it with the new one because you've seen how I did this one. Well, I'll show you how to take this one out as well. But just to save some time on the video, I don't want to sit here and have you guys watch me do this. We'll see. All right, so then we have this circuit or limit switch in place. It lines up close to the original. Now, just because I know it's had some time to wear, this being a 2007 model ATV, I want to replace this switch too, just to make sure that I don't have to come back in here and do this repair later again. So I'm just going to put my fingernail underneath the switch, give it a little bit of pressure out, And then we're gonna touch these solder points and it will release and come out the other side as I keep them warm enough to fall out. I can feel it releasing, and then I hung on the last one, so then I only have one really to heat up and take out. And there it is. The circuit is still good, or limit switch I should say, but I want to replace it. Then this section here, it goes inside, and you can see this arm. This is the piston that would be pushed by outside. There's that pin. This is what gets pushed by the pin when you actuate your four-wheel drive, or get, yeah. You just want to make sure that this arm that actuates the limit switches is in front of the limit switch when you put it down. That may mean that you have to thread it one way or the other to get it far enough, like this slides on this arm back here. So if you center it like that, then when you place it in, then you can see it's in between the two switches, the limit switches. And then finally, this one here. And that's reassembling it. Okay. All right, then we're ready to reassemble and put in the quad. All right, so I've completed putting the actuator back together, changing the limit switches. Now we're gonna install it again. Like I said before, it's pretty simple. This has just got an O-ring on it. This is a plunger and inside is an arm. Then when, like we showed before, when the motor spins, it actually moves an actuator back and forth, which will push this pin in and out, and then actuate your two-wheel, four-wheel drive switch. So you just have to line it up, slide it over top of the pin, like that. I've left one screw in here to hold it, so I just want to work it back and forth until I get it in place.